What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we'll be looking at Severance again, but this time we're going to be going to Reddit to find some of the biggest theories pertaining to this show. I did a similar video like this for the show Yellow Jackets. For Yellow Jackets, those theories are a little bit more like wacky and crazy, a little bit more fun. For Severance, I think the ones I'm going to be talking about today are more serious and sort of pertaining about what's been going on behind Lumen, some more background on Irving and Bert, and then maybe sort of trying to answer some of the biggest questions that this show has given us so far, because we haven't gotten too many answers in terms of the numbers of what these Severance employees are doing, what Lumen is actually trying to accomplish. So we'll be looking at some of the big theories on there, trying to clear the air heading into Season 2. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to like it. Please make sure to subscribe if you are new. But let's take a look at some of the biggest theories for Severance. Alright, so this first theory comes from YB Nyek. I'm not going to be able to pronounce that. And so his theory pertains to the numbers and what the severed employees are actually doing in Lumen, pertaining to all these categorizing numbers and putting them in boxes. From this picture, we see that there's 4 categories, right? And what they stand for is woe, frolic, dread, and malice. And so this user goes on to talk about the colors and how we've been seeing these colors all around the show. They sort of show up. They have some sort of meaning. And to summarize it all up at the end, what he's trying to say is that what these people are doing, what the severed employees are doing, is that they're sorting these numbers, and the numbers are sort of like brain activity. And what they're doing is they're trying to categorize the human brain so that Lumen can replicate the human mind to create artificial beings, and then they'll eventually never have to hire anyone, and they'll just have like this army of severed employees. And I like this theory. I think it's pretty strong, but the one problem I have with it, or one question I have with it, is that what do they do after they have like this army of severed employees? Like, what's the end game there still? You know, like if you really look at it, like, okay, like let's say they do categorize all this human brain, they replicate the human mind, they put it in something, either a vessel, and they make artificial beings. It's like, okay, like what's the end game there though? But all these beings that are artificial intelligence, what do you do with that? You know, so my brain, I think it goes to power. It has to do something with power, right? I used to think the Egans want immortality, and this probably somehow does play into immortality, but I think this is more of a power move, to be able to have control over a very intelligent species. You know, that's something that maybe the Egans want. You know, they want to be like gods to a species. And so I think it would make sense, but also it's like, I just don't see like them having so much power over these artificial beings and the human race, like the real human race, not having a problem with it. Already we've seen people have a problem with the Severance, but it's almost like it just feels really weird, like something's off with this theory. I just feel like if this theory was true, the show would go a route to where it would be the rebellion, which is what we've seen so far, versus Severance with like this army of artificial beings. Sort of maybe like a Terminator, sort of like Judgment Day type of thing. You know, where I really saw the show more as a, I don't know what I saw it for. I mean, I saw it as an allegory for, you know, humans in the workplace, right? And the innies and outies, which I think was a great concept. But it seems like if the Lumen goes with this plan of creating artificial beings, there would no longer be a need for innies and outies, you know? And I just feel like there's such a focus on the innie-outie aspect. And even the fact that Helly Egan wanted to try out to be an innie and she was also an outie, like I feel like there's a focus there on that they would want to maintain in their grand plan. So I feel like just scrapping that idea and moving to artificial beings just wouldn't make too much sense. But I mean, honestly, what the show's given us so far, this is a good theory. He even goes on to talk about Miss Casey and how, you know, it would make sense that maybe they found her and her brain was dead. So they put a prototype artificial intelligence in her brain, and that's why she's so robotic. That's why she's so monotone and only says a couple of lines, because she's in the beginning stages of this early artificial intelligence. And that makes sense. I actually think that in some way this is true. Like Miss Casey, I think, definitely has some sort of Lumen technology inside of her, and she's different from the others. She's not like Mark or Helly. I don't think it's an innie and outie with her. I think she's just an innie, you know, and she's just some sort of severed employee that no longer has an outie form, you know. I think because she was dead, and it's just harder for them to maybe do that. I'm not really sure, but I think that's a good theory. And then he also ends by saying in episode 1, when Helly's asking questions about what's going on here, Mark jokes around and he says, "You think we grew a full human, gave you consciousness?" And that's pretty much what, you know, this theory is all about. is that he thinks that Lumen is going to want to grow full-on humans and give them consciousness, pretty much create an army of innies or a company of innies. And I feel like it needs to be like, I keep saying army because that's the only way I think this will feel high stakes, is if Lumen wants to not only create a company of artificial intelligence, but wants, to create a town or a city or a world of people that they can control, So solid theory. I like it a lot. I think this really could be like what it's all about, like creating artificial beings. Even with the goats, he goes on to say this in his post, those little baby goats we saw, those could be early testings for this artificial intelligence. So definitely a lot of clues there. I just feel like it's missing something. I think it has to do with like the end game of it all. Like just finding out that it's like, oh, Lumen's creating human beings that, that are going to work for Lumen. I don't think they're doing it to create more Severance employees or more Lumen employees. I think there's something else that they want to use these human artificial beings for. That's the only thing that has me questioning this theory a little bit. But overall, I think this theory is right in terms of sorting the brain activity. I think that's definitely what they're doing. I saw one theory saying that maybe someone said that they're sorting through a human soul, and that's why it has like the woe, the malice, and all that stuff. Like it's definitely something about sorting through some sort of human consciousness or brain activity. I just and I think it probably does have something to do with cloning as well, because the goats are such like a cloning thing. But that could be a throw off for the audience, because we all know, like when we see a goat, like I think of cloning as well. I think it's because of that real life goat cloning thing. So it could be a throw off for us. But this very well could be true. So comment down below what you guys think of this theory. But let's move on to the next one. All right, so this next theory pertains to Irving and Bert. This comes from Manan Vanin, and it pretty much talks about how the connection between Irving and Bert is a very long connection. Like it has a lot of history there. And this person thinks that they've been reset multiple times because they're always drawn to each other. And so they always have to get reset because they somehow find a way to fall in love with each other. So it must have happened one time, and then they kind of like move them into different departments so that they wouldn't fall in love. Then they always eventually find each other, right? And so this also could be why Irving's Audi draws the elevator, because this sort of like bleeds into his Audi consciousness, because he always sees maybe Bert going down to be reset. And so it sort of like sticks in his memory. But then this also might explain that story about the two departments warring with each other, and we saw they had like bloody fights and eating each other. This could have been a tactic by Lumen or by Harmony to create like this story about the departments to keep Irving and Bert away from each other. And it sort of did for a little bit in the beginning of the season, but eventually they always found their way of falling in love with each other. And that's why eventually they retire Bert, because they think maybe it's getting too dangerous for them to always be connected. And now it's bleeding into Irving's Audi's consciousness. So maybe that's why they retire Bert, because they think it's getting too dangerous. So I actually like this theory because it does explain the two departments warring story. I think we ended up finding that out, that Lumen was behind that in some way, like making up this fake story, maybe to keep the two departments away from each other. But maybe it wasn't the departments, but it was actually Irving and Bert. It makes sense, and I do like the idea that they have some sort of connection between these multiple lives, and that's why they're always drawn to each other. Even in the beginning, we kind of see them giving each other looks like, they know each other, they have some sort of history, but their minds have been erased multiple times, right? And so I'm going to be using this to bleed into my next theory about Irving, because there's so much with Irving that I want to know more about, especially with his Audi, because in this next theory, he talks about his Audi and what, even in that room, we got so many details about what he's been doing, and it just makes me question like why he does certain things, and how much of a good relationship does Innie and Audi actually have, because there's so many connections between those two. So for this quick theory between Irving and Bert, I believe it. I like it. I think they do have some sort of connection, and the fact that maybe they do get reset, I think it just makes sense. So I like this theory. Comment down below what you guys think, but let's go into the next one. All right, so this is actually the last theory, but I thought I had a couple more, but I mean, we talked about a couple of things, right? So this one comes from Flying Fly of Hell, and this pertains to Irving, and they're asking about why Irving has these pictures of the Lumen lawsuits and why he has a list of all the severed employees. So this guy's theory is that he thinks maybe he had a real husband that died from Lumen, and that's why he's looking into this, and also explains maybe why, well, not explains it, but he also questions why he draws the black elevator with the red light. And so I think there's actually a connection between these two theories, because I'm thinking that maybe, like I said, Irving's outie knows more about Irving's innie than Irving's innie even does. So Irving's innie got reset multiple times, right? Or like that's what that theory was. What if it's because Irving's outie, like this wasn't the first time Irving's innie even went out to go find Bert, you know? And maybe Irving's outie has met... this one's tough. I wanted to draw a connection between Irving's outie has already known of Bert, and maybe like that was actually like his real husband. Nah, but Bert already had a different husband, so that actually doesn't even work. Okay, so actually scrap what I was thinking. Okay, so Irving has these lawsuits, or he's looking at newspapers of these severed lawsuits, right? He obviously doesn't like Lumen. I don't think even if he has all that list of severed employees, he's plotting against Lumen in some way. Now, why is he drawing the elevator, right? It could, that previous theory could help in the fact that maybe he sees Bert go down that elevator to be reset and sort of bleeds into the outie's consciousness mind. Maybe that's why he's drawing it. But I also think he knows what he's drawing. I don't think it's just like he has these images and he's drawing it. Like that obviously could be it, but I feel like there's like a message behind the drawing. Like maybe he's trying to send a message to Irving's innie. You know, like maybe Irving's innie has come out before into the real world. You know. Maybe he's trying to draw that connection between those two. I don't know. There's a lot with Irving. People also said that when Irving's innie is always tired, right? It's probably because Irving's outie is always keeping him up, either researching about Lumen or drawing the painting. And maybe Irving innie, when he goes to sleep, there's some sort of connection that he makes with his outie. And Irving's outie is able to like maybe see what he's seeing or think in the mind of the innie. I don't know. There's a lot to dissect with Irving. But it does bring up the question, like, why is Irving investigating Lumen? Like, why is he looking into all these lawsuits and has the list of severed employees? It's a good question to raise. I honestly don't really have too great of an answer. But honestly, this theory might just have the simple answer in that Irving's outie is maybe an investigative journalist looking into Lumen. And, you know, he uses his innie to find out some more information about Lumen on, like, a subconscious level. And then... But it's also funny to think about like how Irving used to always be so loyal to Lumen in the beginning episodes, and that his outie maybe is so against Lumen and is like sort of like investigating against them. So it's cool to see that contrast between the innies and outies again. I always love seeing that. But it would also like I want to see this be explored more in season 2. I want to know a lot more about Irving, see a lot more of the outie forms, and that's pretty much it though. So I love doing videos like this. Like I said, for Severance, there's only like a handful of theories that I think are juicy enough to really explore. Like we have enough details and clues to really make like a good assumption about. There's so many out there that I just don't think have enough backbone to really, make like a solid analysis if it's actually true or not, you know. But for these that I've seen so far, these are some of the top ones. I think some of them are pretty solid, but honestly, like we still don't really know too much about what's going to come in the future, which is great. I mean, like I said, I love season 1. I thought it was a great season. And I'm probably going to do a similar video like this for Outer Range, so if any fans of Outer Range. And I'm also going to be going to the movies right now to go see Men, get a review up tonight, hopefully. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to like it. Please make sure to subscribe if you're new. But I will see you on the next video. Have a great rest of the day.